While I get this camera set up, we have Kaye Smith as our guest today. And so I'm going to come back around, and for all y'all that tried to hop on and saw nothing, I apologize. We're going to wait a few minutes and let everybody log on here. And of course, if technology doesn't work today, we're just going to record this and put it on the channel later.
Okay.
But we should be good. It should work.
Never know about technology.
Yeah, but we got AT&T fiber here, and for some reason, AT&T fiber and YouTube have a big lawsuit versus each other.
Really?
And so I got AT&T fiber so I could have fiber, so I can have faster uploads and all that stuff. But it has not been successful. Like I have to use my cellular to upload videos all the time. There's 14 watching. All right, we're gonna see if y'all are on here. Hold on 1 second. I'm gonna skip an ad so I can preview this. Hey, we are on here. Okay. All right, so that means we should get to talking. I am going to try to get the comments going on here. So start leaving me some comments here so I can see who's on and where you've joined us from. Switch over to channel. So this is Kaye Smith. Let's introduce Kaye here. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
She's actually the first guest in studio, and she said thanks so much. we've had a bunch of technical snafus, but we got on here early enough to be able to, fix some of this stuff. And as soon as I get chat going, in fact, I'm gonna get this other camera right here, because then I can actually look at the chat and read off any questions that you'll have for Kaye. So 14 have joined us. Let's just go ahead and give it another few minutes here. We'll get started with our chat. Y'all are gonna be excited. There's some things I didn't even know that we talked about that she had never talked to me about. So, all right. There, 20 watching them. All right. There we go. All right. Hey, Anna Anderson. Glad to have you on the channel. Leonard the Great from Texas. Eileen, good morning. I just wanted to let you know I enjoy your reading of all the books supporting Elvis's legacy. Debbie Courtney from Indiana. Heather, we can see, but volume isn't great. We weren't talking too loud, so let's see if it's working better now. Let us know that, Heather. Elvis and Friends. All right. Jimmy, hey, what's up, Jimmy Badalinsky? Good morning, Joe, Kaye, Elvis and Friends, Leonard, Anna, Eileen, Debbie, Heather. Hi from Scotland and hi from Cleveland, Ohio. Okay, so why don't we get started? Okay, so tell everybody how we know each other.
Well, from Amber Falls Winery, we have seen Joe and his wife perform several times. My husband also performs with the Bluegrass Band at Amber Falls, and we've got, so yeah, that's how it all got started.
How long has it been? 5 years since we first met, or 6 years?
At least 5, maybe 6.
So when we first met, I think I sing Elvis covers every once in a while, maybe 1, 2, or 3 per show with our other stuff that were our originals and Johnny Cash songs. And I came off the stage and met your husband and you. Who's here? I would turn the camera on, but he's camera shy back over there.
Yeah, right.
And she said almost right away, she goes, I was in an Elvis movie. And of course, I sat right down. So, well, we're going to get to that, but we're going to go chronological order. So, you were raised in, you said Greenfield?
Greenfield, Field.
All right.
Not to be confused with Greenville,
Okay.
which is East Tennessee. I'm from West Tennessee.
All right. So tell us about your first experiences of Elvis, hearing him, and then when you actually maybe saw him live. I mean, just go through the whole story.
My mother and daddy loved Elvis instantly. We started listening to him on WHBQ. Dewey Phillips was the DJ at WHBQ at the time, and mother and daddy just fell in love with his music instantly. I was 8, 9 years old, and so we started listening to him, and went and bought a record player so that we could play his records. That we'd buy every new record that came out. So that's how it all started. And then of course we found out, that he bought the house in Memphis, and we would actually take our vacations in the summer and go to Memphis in order to hopefully get a glimpse of him. And we would stay down at the gate late at night because he didn't come out till midnight and after. So we would go down to the gate, sit down there, just camp out virtually, and wait for him to hopefully come out. And a lot of nights he did. A lot of nights we got to see him. He would come out and he'd stop and say a few words to us, and then off he drove. So we did that for years. I have 2 autographs, which I got in 1960. That was the first summer he was home from the Army. And so he would stop. This was in the daytime. He came down in the daytime and stopped, and he got out of the car. We all went up to him. He was very gracious and kind, as he always was. Always the perfect gentleman. And he would stand there and sign autographs for us until his men would say, "Elvis, we've got to go."
So any recollections of the guys that were around Elvis that you remember? Of course, I mean, we're talking, this is what, 1960? And it wasn't like they were well known to the casual fan. Who the people, did you have any recollections or any memories of who they
Frankly,
were?
I wasn't interested in any other men. I was only focused on Elvis. The one particular day that I remember that we got the first autograph from him, he had on like a black jumpsuit, not a show stage type jumpsuit like he wore later on, but just a regular black jumpsuit, short sleeves. I have a picture of him signing my autograph.
Okay.
So he's got on this black suit. His hair was beginning to grow out and get longer, because like I said, this was the first summer he was home from getting out of the Army. He got home, I think, in March, and this was probably July. So his hair was getting longer again, looking fit, trim, fabulous. And I'm 13 years old, so I was just awestruck.
So sisters, siblings. I mean, it was your mom, you, and your father.
Just the 3 of us.
Okay.
I don't have any brothers or sisters. So he was just always, like I say, so gracious, so nice. He would have stood out there in that heat, I think, and signed autographs all day long. But there came a point they said, "Elvis, we've got to go," and they made him get in the car and had to leave. But
so was he heading back into Memphis or leaving? Leaving Graceland?
he was leaving Graceland then. Yeah, he was leaving Graceland. Usually when he came back in, there was no slowing down. I've seen him come back through the gate to go back home, and he just always, they opened the gates and he drove on in. There was no stopping. He would always stop on his way out. And in fact, one night, my husband and I were down at the gate late at night, and Fane said, my husband Fane, and he said,
he's over there.
He's over
on
there.
the camera.
And he said, "Man, your hair really looks good." This was when he was letting it grow out and get long. And Elvis looked at him and he said, "Thank you, man." And I thought that was so humble and so realistic and down to earth, for a star of his status to even make a comment. A lot of stars would have just said, "Well, of course it looks good," and gone on. That wasn't Elvis. He was so kind and so humble and down to earth. So, and that was the same summer that he took me through his house.
And we will talk about that.
Later on.
We're gonna
Okay,
tease a little bit there.
okay.
But I'm gonna go through the comments here. And by the way, if you have questions, and as we go through this, put them in the chat. I just want to shout out to some folks that have joined. Luann Holtis, and everything's okay with the volume. Thank you, Heather. Teresa Kona, Jerry Strunk, Silvo sings. Silvo does a lot of tribute stuff on YouTube for Elvis. Impact Films production from Germany. Okay, this is Elvis is their favorite movie. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how, like, where you're at in the film, how it came about. Yeah, that's probably a great segue. Thank you for that, Impact Films.
So we're talking about the film then, the movie.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Well, actually, I was in Greenfield when I found out that Elvis had passed. I was visiting my mother and daddy, and I had my daughter with me, and she was 6 at the time. And she came running into the bedroom, and she said, "Mama, Elvis has died." And I said, "No, Valley, that's not right. No, Elvis is not dead." "Yes, Mama, it is. I just heard it on the radio. Elvis has passed away." And so, of course, my mother and I went running to the radio, and that was all that was on. You know, they'd stopped all programming to speak of that. And it was surreal. You know, we just couldn't believe it. And of course, my daughter standing there saying, "I told you, Mama, I told you that," you know, she wanted to make sure I understood. So we all jumped in the car, headed to Memphis. And my husband was flying in from Birmingham. He'd been on a business trip. He was flying into Memphis to meet me because we had tickets actually to see Willie Nelson that very night. And so we were going to meet in Memphis and go see Willie Nelson. And we got there, and all the rest of that day is pretty much a blur to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just we went on to the concert, but I did not sit in my seat very long to watch Willie Nelson. I couldn't get into it. You know, after what had happened, I was in shock.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get into watching Willie Nelson. I probably watched 10 minutes of his whole hour and a half long concert, however long it was. So anyway, then the next day, all the people were, you know, converging on Graceland. And I wanted to go and be part of that. And so Fanny took me down there and dropped me off, because I didn't want to try to drive in all that traffic. So he dropped me off down there, and there were probably 100,000 people or more at the gate. You've seen the pictures of the crowd. Well, I was in that crowd. So, and I don't know really that it was the next day. It might have been really the next day after that.
Could have been the 18th.
Yeah, probably more like the 18th. Because he had to have time to prepare his body. So I'm in all this throng of people, 98-degree weather, sweltering heat. And this reporter from ABC, for some reason, meandered through that crowd of people and stuck the microphone in my face. And why he picked me out, heaven only knows. I don't know, because I mean, I was swarmed by people.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, he came up to me and he said, "Why would you stand out here in this heat to try to get a glimpse of his body, to try to view his body?" Because that's not what we were all waiting for, to, you know, to make the trek up the driveway and you know.
So that would have been the 17th, I believe. So
Yeah,
it was the day after then.
yeah. So anyway, I proceeded to tell him, you know, what you see in the movie. I said, you know, I was just raised on Elvis. My mom and my daddy loved him. You know, never gonna be anybody else like him as far as I'm concerned. And I spoke a lot more than that. I probably talked to him 5 minutes, but that's what they took out. And so I went back that night. I know another funny story about that day. Well, I'll tell that later. But anyway, I did get to go. I was one of the few that got to go up the driveway and see his body. And they had him lying just inside the foyer.
Mm-hmm.
Opened the doors, and his body was just inside the foyer, just enough for us to be able to get into the house, see his body, and move on.
So it was kind of you walk in and then turn around. It was not no going up to
No,
view you.
they had him probably, oh, I'd say maybe, all this is hard to know
Sure.
exactly. I'd say maybe 10 to 12 feet inside the foyer, inside the house. Just enough for us to go see his body, turn and go right back out. There was no stopping, there was no,
No,
they wouldn't
with
allow
all
you.
those people, and not everybody got in there. I mean, that's the
Oh,
thing
no,
is,
no.
you must have kind of like pushed your way.
You
to the
did, you had to do a
crowd.
little pushing and
Yeah.
shoving, but, and of course it was single file, they kept everybody very orderly, very single file. But, as badly as I wanted to touch him, I wanted to touch, there were people standing there at each end of the casket to make sure you didn't touch him.
Mhm.
But he was beautiful, even then, he was beautiful. But anyway, and then we just filed right back down the driveway, and, but the funny thing, that I remember about that day, that after all of that, it was so hot.
Mhm.
I'd been out there all day, and that was kind of before we took a bottle of water or
Yeah.
anything with us. I mean, that was the days, you didn't take a bottle of water, you didn't take a canister of water or a flask or anything. And I've been out there all day long. It was probably 4 o'clock before I ever got up there, and I'd been out there since 8 o'clock. Hadn't had anything to drink, nothing to eat. Women were dropping like flies. Ambulances, just one ambulance right after the other. The EMTs fanning women, putting hot cold water on. It was crazy. It was just a crazy day, and I was so tired. I was so hot. I was so thirsty. And I went across the street, and there was a 7-Eleven or some kind of quick sack like that. I think it was a 7-Eleven. But anyway, I went over there, and there were all these people lined up, I mean, around the building to get in, to get something to eat and to drink, because
Right.
we were all in the same boat. And I thought to myself, I can't stand in that line and wait to get something to drink. I'm gonna pass out. I'll be another casualty that they're gonna have to send an
Right.
ambulance for. So I just kind of went through the line, went in there to the cooler, grabbed me a big 2-liter bottle of Sprite, and left. And didn't pay for it. I had to do something or I would have passed out. So I got that.
The statute of limitations, thanks.
Yeah. So
Has passed, or we start hearing sirens.
so that's the only thing I've ever stolen in my life.
But you went back and paid
So
for it.
Okay.
I went out there and I got underneath the shade tree and I sat down and chug-a-lugged the bottle of Sprite. So anyway, and then, that night was, my husband can tell you, I went to bed crying that night.
I'm sure.
It was like a family member had died. I mean, it was as hard, at that time for me as if a family member had died. I felt so close to that man, for so many years. He'd been such an integral part of my life. I can't tell you how I felt that night. It was just horrible.
I think a lot of folks could attest to it, because that's the one astounding thing about Elvis, is that you can come, you could be 25 years old, you could be 88 years old, 55 years old, 22, doesn't really matter the age, you can have a connection with Elvis. Now, for those of y'all that were watching movies back in the day, and Kaye's going to share the story of actually being around Elvis and Graceland, but that makes it even more, because then you grow up on Elvis, while he's still alive, seeing him in movies, hearing him in concert, getting the records, and then all of a sudden at 42, which is so young. It's
Young.
I think all the time, I've outlived Elvis. I may only be 28, really, but somehow I've outlived Elvis. I'm older than that. And it's crazy, because I feel very young, extremely young. And to think I would have passed away years ago if I was Elvis's age, it's hard to grasp that. Real quick, let's go through the comments here. Rhonda says, hello there, Kaye from Illinois. She said, I remembered her on This Is Elvis. All right, so Rhonda remembers you. Let's see here. Joyce, hey, Joyce from New Jersey. Let's see here. Okay, so I will ask her that when we get to, I don't think she would have met Priscilla because the year doesn't match up for that, but maybe, we'll see. Jane and Linda, good to see y'all. Let's see here. I need to learn more so I can effectively push back. Okay, so people are talking about all the drama going on in the world of Elvis with Lisa Marie and Priscilla pulling a plug early on Lisa according to the lawsuits. So there's a lot of talking about this. So David, you want us to talk a little loud. We're gonna scoot our seats up a teeny bit. Might as well. There we go. Now you can hear us better. If you want to scoot your seat up, you can. It slides. There we go. Yep.
Is that good?
I've got a delay, but it looks like you're up there closer, so that should help a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about me going up to Graceland and being in 1960. So I don't want to spoil what you can talk about here.
Not going into his house.
Yeah.
Well, again, my mother and daddy and I had been down at the gate all night, standing around hoping to get a glimpse of him. And Vester Presley, who I'm sure you all know, one of his uncles, was the guard on the gate that night, or one of the guards on the gate that night. And he came out and started talking to us, and there was just a few of us there at that time, and my mother and my daddy and I, and maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 other teenage girls, older than me, but I was 13, they were all 16, 17, 18 years old, in that age group. And Vester said, how would you like to walk up the driveway and see the house up close? And we said, oh, we'd love that. We would love that. And he said, well, there's just one condition. You've got to be quiet because he is in the house. He hasn't left yet, which we knew because we've been waiting for him to come out. And he said, he's in the house and I will get in a lot of trouble if he knows I've brought a group of people up there. So we said, oh, we'll be quiet. Well, sure, we'll be quiet. Well, that blew out the window. As soon as we got up there, a bunch of teenage girls were giggling and laughing and, pointing at the house. And we can't believe we're this close to the mansion and all that. And so then all of a sudden, I see this hand push the drape away at an upstairs window. And he looked out of the window. And Vester says, oh, expletive, we're in trouble. We need to get back down this driveway because he has seen us. So we, we're scared at that point. So we start hot-footing it back down the driveway there. And Elvis came out the front door and he said, everybody stop where you are. So Vester says, this may be my job, this may be it. So anyway, of course, we stopped, because when Elvis said something, people tended to do it. He had that aura about him. You didn't just keep on going down the driveway, you stopped. And so we stopped, and he said, everybody come back up here, which we did. We all turned around and went back up there. And I guess because I was the shortest one in the group, and the youngest one in the group, I'm thinking he got behind me and he put his hands around my neck. And I'm just standing there, unable to breathe, unable to move, unable to do anything. I'm thinking, I have Elvis Presley's hands around my neck. And I was just sort of a prop for him, I would say. I was just, not that he needed a prop, but I think I was. So anyway, I stood there very, very motionless, just like I said, unable to breathe, just excited. And so he begins talking to us, and again, so nice, so gracious, such a gentleman, such a epitome of the Southern gentleman. And he said, well, now that y'all seen the outside of the house, how would you like to see the inside of the house? And we said, that'd be wonderful. So he takes us inside, and the white grand piano was close to the front door at that time.
Okay.
It wasn't where it is now. I know where it is now. It wasn't there at this time in 1960. It was closer to the front door to the right when we walked in. And at that time, I could play the piano pretty well. I'd been taking piano lessons since I was 5 years old. I was pretty good. And he said, anybody in this group that can play this thing? And my mother's poking me in the back, wanting me to play. I said, Mother, I can't do it. I could have not played for him. My hands would have been so sweaty, they wouldn't have stayed on the keys. I was too nervous. I couldn't do it. So my mother never forgave me for not playing for Elvis, and I haven't forgiven myself actually, because I could have said I played piano for Elvis, but I passed up, missed that opportunity. But anyway, he said, he showed us all through the house. And he even took us upstairs, which you can't go upstairs anymore on the tour, you don't go up the steps. But he took us upstairs, saw his bedroom. So I like to say I have been in the bedroom with Elvis Presley. Not alone.
One of the few in the world.
Not alone, but I have been in his bedroom with him. I remember the dark, deep velvet bedspread, deep purple. Very lush, very ornate, had EP in gold on the drop skirt part. The curtains matched, the drapes matched, dark, deep purple with gold EP on them. Very, very ornate, very elegant, very lush, very Elvis. Very, very Elvis. So I didn't see the bathroom, he didn't show us that, but we were in the bedroom, so, it was an experience for a 13-year-old girl.
Sure.
It was an experience for everybody.
And you being 13, once again, you're pretty dang shy when you're 13, 12, 13, 14.
Right.
So you probably didn't talk much, probably the other girls were chatting away and talking, and
Well,
do you know, like, so you walked up the stairs, did you go to the other places first, or just straight up to the bedroom, do you remember?
we went up to the other places first. We
Okay.
went to the other parts of the house first, and then the bedroom was the last place that we went. But no, the other girls were pretty quiet too. Everybody was you're pretty much in awe of him.
Okay.
As nice as he was, as friendly and as comfortable as he was trying to make us feel, it was still hard to talk around the man. Even for me, I talk a lot, but it was hard for me to talk around him. I don't recall ever asking him a question. I didn't ask him any questions, but I just remember him being so nice, so very nice. And he was always nice. Every time I was around him, all I saw was perfect gentleman. Perfect gentleman.
Well, that's an amazing story, because once again, yes, there's the Graceland tours, you can walk in there, but you can't go up the stairs, some people try,
No,
and get
can't
kicked
do that
out.
anymore.
The Jungle Room wasn't the Jungle Room back then.
Right.
So you probably, did you go downstairs, down to the TV room where it's yellow and so you saw that,
Saw
pool
that.
table?
Saw that. But it's a little.
Would you remember, of course, probably you're not gonna remember whether anybody else was in the house, because you're just in awe that you're around Elvis and who cares?
I was just, anybody could have been in there, and I probably wouldn't have seen anybody else. I just remember him. I just remember him and the other girls. And my mother wouldn't go on the tour with us. She just took a seat there in the living room and stayed. She said, I don't feel like I should violate his privacy and be traipsing all through his house. I said, Mother, he's invited us. She said, but I'll just sit here and wait. So she didn't go with us. She just thought I shouldn't do that. And
well, it's a different time. Like we're talking
It was.
1960, and somebody's home is their.
yeah, it was.
know.
Yeah, she viewed
But he's
that.
still invited. But maybe she just.
That's just the way my mother was. She was just the sweetest person in the world, and she just thought that would be a violation of his home to just be. She looked at it as his home and not Elvis's mansion. As we were all thinking about it. So, but it was an experience. It was an experience. So loved it.
So you didn't live in Memphis, you know, so it's not like you were camped out all in the front of Grayson. So the fact that you actually got to go in the house was really a miracle. It was amazing. It's like, I mean, Elvis didn't bring people up all the time. He would occasionally bring people up, but Bester is the one that kind of, that you owe it to.
Yeah.
Um,
And Travis Smith, you know, he was down there a lot too.
Mhm.
He was very nice. He was always very nice. But it seemed like Vester seemed like he got us into more things. After Fane and I married, and of course I moved to Memphis then.
what year?
We married in '67. In fact, we celebrated our 58th wedding anniversary last Wednesday. But
What date was that, real quick?
20th of August.
The same one as my wife and I, by the way. We probably talked about it before, but we married 19 years, August 20th. I thought, when you said Wednesday, but wait a second.
Yeah.
It's my anniversary.
Right.
Can't have my anniversary. No.
20th. But my husband wasn't, he wasn't a big Elvis fan when we married. He was more into the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Bo Brummels and the Dave Clark Five and, you know, all of the English groups or whatever. He'd never been just a great big Elvis fan. But, you know, if you're gonna stay married to me, you've got to become an Elvis fan. And so we started going down to the gate at night. He and I did it. We married. We'd go down and do the same thing I'd done with my mother and daddy, wait for him to come out. And it's a total story about Fane saying, telling his hair, that was one night. So anyway, Elvis would rent the Memphian Theater a lot at night, late at night, you know, 12, 1 o'clock, he'd go down, rent the Memphian, watch movies all night long. So Vester kind of got us in with the group, able to get us in to go to the Memphian.
Mhm.
So we did that on occasions. And of course, we were both working, going to school, whatever. But we'd still, you know, go down there and watch movies with him from midnight till 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Go home, sleep 2 hours, get up, go to work. And I'd do it all over again. You know, if I had to do it again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But now that was fun too. We enjoyed doing that. Of course, I didn't watch any of the movie. I was watching him.
Well, there you go. And that was another question because, you know, there's always the idea of like, what did Elvis watch? We heard he watched the same movies very often over and over again, but you don't remember.
They didn't show the titles. They couldn't show the title of the movie you were going to watch.
Mm.
That was against the theater policy.
Okay.
They didn't want people to know what they had watched, so we never saw the title to the movie. A lot of times they were westerns, a lot of times they were like gangster type movies,
Mhm.
because he loved Marlon Brando, you know, loved Marlon Brando. So a lot of times they were those type of movies. But again, I was not watching the movie, I was watching Elvis. Because he would sit front and center,
Mhm.
you know, about the, maybe 10th row back. And he'd be right in the center, and all his guys, or maybe the girl he was going with at the time would be with him. And then we would all be back behind him. And he, you know, he'd just make comments. I mean, you know, like when you go to the movie, you can't just shout out, "Oh, I hope he shoots that guy," or whatever. Well, Elvis did.
Right.
You know, he'd just talk and, you know, well, good, I'm glad he got him, or what, you know, whatever comment he wanted to make. He just shouted out in the theater, so it was fun. You know, it was a lot of fun.
So then you would have, 67-ish to 70, 71. So you would have probably seen Priscilla. She would have been one of the people that went to
She
the
was
Elvis,
with him.
Probably,
all the way
yeah.
through until they split.
Saw her, but
Somebody asked about that, if you'd ever met
Yeah.
her or seen her.
I never talked to her. I never did get to talk to her or anything. But, you know, she went to school there in Memphis. Was it Immaculate Conception?
Mhm. Yes.
And so Fane has seen her in the car with another girl on
Okay.
some occasions. But I never did talk to her or anything, just saw her, but I never did meet her.
Because Fane was from Memphis.
Right,
I was
he
raised
was living in Memphis, he was raised in Memphis, so, you know, and they were at school, you know, at school age, and,
Mhm.
and, you know, cause she came to Memphis, of course, when she was very young, 14 or so. And she and I are the same age.
It was actually, she was 3 months away from 18 when she actually was in Memphis. And
Okay.
she finished her high school. Well, that's a big misconception, that part of this channel is continuing to try to like change it up, because she keeps saying 14, but it doesn't match up with her birthday.
with the birthday or
And
anything.
the fact that she has her senior pictures in Germany and all this other stuff, you know, she
Yeah.
was voted. So yeah, it was, when she came and
Later
visited
on.
at 16 for about 2 weeks once, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting what you learn down the road. You
Yeah.
know, that's not factual versus factual,
Right.
so.
But he became an Elvis fan when we went to see him in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 1971.
Okay.
We went down there to see him. It was November of 71. And when he walked out on that stage, he had on the dark blue, the real dark blue, outfit that night. And Fanny said several times when he walked out on that stage and he saw him and felt the electricity and the aura about him, that's when he really became an Elvis fan. You know, when he saw him in concert. And he was, of course, he was always extraordinary in all his concerts that I saw him, and I saw him
Yeah, let's
several
talk about,
times.
let's talk about all the different concerts.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
saw
can
him.
remember, you know.
I saw him several times in Memphis. I saw him several times in Jackson, Mississippi, Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas. My girlfriend out in Las Vegas and saw him in December of 1975. We were supposed to have gone in August of 75, and he became ill and was put in the hospital. And we had to cancel that trip, but they rescheduled it for December of 75. So we went out there and saw him, and we pulled every shenanigan in the book to try to get to his room. As far as going to, trying to buy maids' uniforms from them.
Right.
We were gonna put on the maids' uniforms, and we thought, you know, if we offered them some money for their uniforms, we thought if we could get the maid's uniform, we could get up to his room.
Sure.
But they were truthful enough with us to say, we can't even get into his room. The elevator door will not open without the key access
Right.
to get on, because he had the whole floor of it was the Hilton at that time, used to be the International. But when we saw it, the Hilton had bought it. So she said, he has the whole floor of the Hilton, and we can't even get on his floor, so it won't do you any good to put on our uniforms. But we just done everything. We were out there with a tour group from Jackson, Mississippi, and the tickets that they bought for us were way at the back of the showroom.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend that was with me, that's also a huge Elvis fan, she said, we need to try to get down closer to the stage. I don't want to sit back here with all this bunch of tour people. And I said, well, Linda, how do you think we're going to do that? And she got the maitre d' over there, and she said, what would it cost us to get right down on the front? I mean, able to touch the stage.
Uh-huh.
What would it cost us to get down there? He said $100. Well, you know, $100 doesn't sound like much now, but 1975, that was
Yeah.
a good, fair amount of money. And I've got a 4-year-old at home. Christmas is coming up. I'm thinking, you know, that's a lot of money. And she looked at me, or Linda's her name, Linda Townsend. She looked at me and she said, Kaye, we'll never be here again. We'll never have this opportunity. Valley will have Christmas no matter what. Let's give the man $100. Let's get our rear ends down there next to that stage. And we did. And I'm so thankful that we
And
did.
this was what year, 1970?
75.
75.
75, December 75. So all of a sudden, the two people that were sitting at that table are gone. And we're sitting there, and I could put my hand on the stage. And so he
So
came.
real quick, if you got kicked out of your table in December of 75, it's his fault.
It's all my fault. Sorry, not sorry.
And you got with the tour group, you don't recognize any of the people back there, and you're sitting with strangers. Her fault.
It's my fault.
She not only stole some Sprite, she kicked you out.
But anyway, of course, put on fabulous show, unbelievable show. And she and I decided that if we were lucky enough to get a scarf, you know, you'd hand out scars.
Mhm.
We were lucky enough to get one, we would share it. She'd keep it 6 months, I'd keep it 6 months, that's what we were gonna do.
Right?
So, he does come over, has white scarf. She had on white formal, we wore formals, I mean, we were dressed to the nines. Long dresses, formal dresses. She had on white formal, I had on kind of a teal colored formal. So he comes over with a white scarf, and he gives us the white scarf. Well, we put our heads together and we put the scarf around both of our necks. We're all huddled up here with this one scarf around both of us.
Right?
And he got so tickled. He just was laughing at us, you know, acting like it, just going nuts. He walks back over to Charlie Hodge, says, "Need another scarf." And Charlie picks up another white one. He said, "No, not that one, I need that one." And he made him get him a teal colored scarf to match my dress.
That's
So he brought the teal colored scarf back over to me.
a man with style that knew, hey, let's
Hey,
go ahead and.
These women need the scarf to match their dresses. So anyway, I have pictures of her and myself in our hotel room with our holding our scarves. You know, it had his makeup on them, and you know they smelled like him, and we slept with them, and you know, it was an awesome experience. It was an awesome experience, but. And when we got ready to leave Las Vegas and get back on the tour bus to go back to the airport, fly back to Jackson, Mississippi, where we left from, the man that was the head of the tour, he got up there and he said, "I've been bringing groups to Vegas for 20 years. And I have never had two people cause me as much trouble as those two right there." Cause like I say, we had done everything. We pulled all kind of tricks trying to get close to Elvis, so, and he found out about all that.
Right.
But like I said, I'd do it again.
I bet.
I'd do it again.
Hey, Rhonda said, do you still have your Elvis scarf?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
alright.
I have my Elvis scarf. I have, 5 tickets, to see him that we never used because he passed away on the 16th of August.
So where were you gonna go see him at?
Memphis.
So Memphis
I
was one of
think
them?
it
Okay.
should, about the 27th, I believe, of August would have been the right date. I believe it was Saturday night, a week from the Saturday after he passed away. So I'm thinking it's the 27th of August. And we had 5 tickets, my mother, my daddy, myself, Fane, and our daughter. And Daddy had bought those 5 tickets, $12.50 a piece is what they were.
Okay, cool, 50.
And we were gonna all go see him. Of course, he passed and we didn't get to go to that concert. And the city of Memphis actually wanted all those tickets back. You know, they said, "Oh, we'll, you know, bring your
We'll
tickets back,
we'll
we'll
refund
refund
you."
them." My daddy was smart enough to say, "No, we're not giving those tickets back."
Right,
So I keep the tickets and everything locked up in the safe deposit box in the bank. But they're still in the same envelope that they came in, they're still all perfect. And you know, I'll always keep them, I won't ever sell them or anything. But you know, I keep everything, I keep my autographs and my scarf and my tickets and everything secure, you know, I keep them secure, so.
Yeah.
I'll leave all of that to my children, to my, you know, daughters and grandchildren. But back to the movie, you know, I contacted Andrew Salt, who was the producer, one of the producers of This Is Elvis. And, because, you know, when we went to see the movie, I didn't know I was gonna be in the movie.
yeah, you
I
just,
mean,
all of a sudden, there you are.
All of a sudden there I am, because ABC had interviewed me, and then they'd sold, I wasn't on the news that night or anything. I thought maybe I might be on the news since he'd interviewed me, but I wasn't. And I just kind of forgot about it, and that was, of course, 1977. And then 81, when the movie came out, we went down to the Old Pope Theater here in Columbia to see it. And there I'm up on the screen, 70 feet wide, blabbing away. And I thought, wow, you know, how did all this happen? But, so I called Andrew Salt, just called information, got his home phone number. That's back when you could do that.
Yeah,
Got his home phone number, called him, and I said, "Mr. Salt," I said, "I'm Kaye Smith, and I don't know how I'm gonna make you understand this or believe this, but I'm in your movie, This Is Elvis." And he said, oh, honey, I'd know your voice anytime, you're the girl in sunglasses.
Oh.
And I said, yes, I am. And he said, you know, I probably watched that clip 150 times before I decided to use it. So he said, I know you, you know, I know you are who you say you are.
Right.
And I said, well, I just want a letter from you stating that I'm in this movie, that's all I want. And he said, oh, I'm gonna do better than that. He said, I'm going to get you signed up at the Screen Actors Guild and get you paid as a day player for your part in the movie. And I thought, well, that'd be great. I don't need all that, but,
Yeah.
you know, that'd be great. So he did. He got me in the Screen Actors Guild, sent me a check for a one-time day player, sent me the letters, 2 letters in fact, that I requested that I framed and we have on our wall. And,
We'll probably do a small little follow-up part too, where I go over there and we see those letters, you know, that'll be maybe something, yeah.
that'd be
that'd be
great.
good.
I should have brought them.
That's okay, no worries, I mean, it's a way for the folks to get to see, cause that's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I mean, all of us Elvis fans wish we had, even though once again, unfortunately, he passed away, and it's, you know, it's a remake of his life and his last few days, I think, but this is Elvis, part of that is. But, it's nice that he did that for you. A little bit of mailbox money that
Yeah, a
you,
little bit.
you weren't expecting, you still get anything at all?
Every time they show the movie, I've been getting money from that movie since 1981,
Okay.
since he signed me at the Screen Actors Guild. Yeah, it's not a
Enough,
tremendous amount of
enough
money.
for some Starbucks?
I'm sorry?
Enough for some Starbucks every
Yeah,
once in a while?
yeah, that was the Starbucks. But you know, it'll, you know, the stubs on the check will either say foreign showing or domestic showing.
Okay.
Cause you know, they show it a lot in Europe.
So you there's more over in Europe than here than what you see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which makes sense
It-
because Elvis never got to go to Europe. He
Right.
wanted to travel and do Europe. In
Right.
fact, I saw something where he actually took out a life insurance policy on himself for international travel. So he definitely was planning
he
on
wanted
doing
to
Europe.
go. He did, he wanted to do Europe, but, you know, they wouldn't let him perform any when he was in the army. You know, they didn't want him performing, they didn't want him to be a performer when he was in the army. They
Right.
wanted him to be a soldier, which he was, and served his country, you know,
Mhm.
graciously, as of course he would, didn't try to get out of it or
Right.
anything, but
I'm gonna say hey to Louis from Defending Elvis Presley. He's got a channel in Europe. That he's got a nice subscribership, and he
Hi,
pops
Louis.
on it every once in a while. Yeah.
hi, Lou.
And let's see who else has popped on here. And Linda M. Vincenzo Redente. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Welcome to the channel. Hey Helen. So yeah, and of course if some of y'all can hear it perfectly fine on the phone, there's some people in the airport that said, oh, it's really hard to hear because I mean you've got. I couldn't hear in the airport. You know, what are you doing trying to listen to a phone in the airport when you're got planes taking off, we got trash trucks picking up our stuff out front. I get it. So when it does air on the channel, probably tomorrow is when it'll actually air. This is airing right now live, but there'll be a replay. It'll probably be pretty easy to hear tomorrow. So stick with us. Yeah. So hey, Debbie Courtney, this is awesome. Nothing better than real people telling real stories. And a few other people said that you remember seeing you in the sunglasses.
Yes.
Um,
I still have those sunglasses too, by the way.
Okay.
I can show you those if you wanna come to our house sometime, I'll be glad to show you those sunglasses.
Okay, very
So,
good. Yeah,
I
I mean, not everybody's fortunate. Like people lose stuff all the time.
Alright,
They really do. Like I sent. I know you haven't really watched the channel a whole lot, but I did a video series on Desiree Presley. There was a book in 1987. Are You Lonesome Tonight? Derry Matera, I brought him on the channel a dozen times. He's an author, and you know, the story was basically that she was Elvis's first daughter. In 1958 is when the mom would have got pregnant. But I had a scar that when I say some people forget them, they lose things, they get. I was looking at Facebook Marketplace, and this lady had a bunch of Elvis stuff for sale, just a block for $75. I thought, I'll go get it, some books, you know, some postcards, a little cell phone camera case that you don't make iPhones this small anymore, unfortunately. But I went over there. It was over in Bellevue, and it was 2 doors away from where I used to go write songs with her in Goston. and he lived over there in Bellevue is where it was. And so I drive past Vernon's house, and oh, that's pretty, and there's her house. So I get this bin of stuff, and in this bin is some books, a lot of memorabilia, nothing extremely valuable, nothing like that. But it was somebody's collection. But in there was a like a gallon-sized Ziploc bag that had a letter, like a piece of paper and a scarf. And I opened it up while I was sitting there, and well, first off, I said, "Hey, where'd you get this?" And the lady said, "Well, I was at Goodwill, and somebody dropped it off, so I grabbed it and stuck it in my trunk." So she stole it. And I bought stolen goods. Okay, well, now I'm in trouble. Anyhow, so I'm sitting there just looking through all the stuff before I pull away, and then I pull out this. It was not even a scarf. What it was a when you put it in your what do they call that?
Like a hanky?
Like a hanky. It was a hanky, and it was a letter, and it said, "Hey," it was a letter from a lady to her kids, and she said, "I got this. It's in Memphis, and one of this might have been Elvis Auditorium, and there's probably some pictures somewhere where he pulled his hanky out and gave it to me." And so I sent the hanky to Desiree Presley because she's never been able to get the estate to give her DNA. It was a crapshoot. I mean, sweat on her skin. It's not gonna last. But I did anyways, just as a kind gesture. But it was kind of cool for me to have that, thinking, okay, this was something Elvis pulled out, and
gave it to somebody.
Yeah.
Sure.
But not everybody gets to keep it, or it doesn't follow in the right hands in the family. So it's pretty cool. You have everything you have, and your daughter's going to be able to get all that.
Yeah, I really like my autographs. I really like those.
So tell us about that. So was it out the gates that you got these on, and what were they on? Were they on pictures? Were they on papers?
Everybody scrambling around to try to find something for him to write on, and of course I said, "Oh, I'll just let him write on my arm." Daddy said, "No, we're not going to do that because that will wash off in a few days. That will not last." And so that was back in the days when you had, now most of you young people are not going to even know what this is, but used to we could have what they call a counter check, which was just a blank check that the bank would give you, and this was before we all had to have account numbers and routing numbers and all this that we have to have today. And you just keep a blank check in your billfold, and if you need to write a check to buy something, you had it. And so Daddy, being as smart as he was, he's a very intelligent man, he said, "I think I've got one of those checks in my billfold, give me a second." So he pulls it out, and he pulls out this blank check, folded it in half. He said, "Here, get him to sign this." So that's what one of my autographs is on. The other one, I think, is actually on the back of a picture.
Okay.
That was the only thing that I could find, was the back of the picture, and I've
So it's much more rare to actually have a real Elvis autograph than people think, because back in those days, a lot of people would send pictures into, like in Germany, and Red West would sign it, and then later on, the ladies in the office would sign stuff. So it's pretty. I'm gonna have to take a look at that, because I've got an autographed 45 cover that is Elvis Presley, and once again, there's so many different examples out there. Who knows what Elvis is? And PSA certifies stuff for money for their friends, so I don't even know if that's really truly. So that would be kind of cool. I'll have to bring it over and see whether mine compares, because it's real,
I would dare anybody to tell me it's not really an Elvis autograph, because I saw him sign
Right.
them. I was there. I saw him sign them, which was.
Not that he didn't mind doing it, but he got so busy, so big, that you just can't do it. All the people that camped out in Germany, people that camped outside of Grayson all the time, unless you're there, unless you're signing it on the way while he used to walk, sign it and walk.
Right.
That's what Billy Stanley, we're having the show all the time, talked about how Elvis loved, he would never turn it down, but he would have to walk in order to do it, because if he stopped, he'd just get mobbed and he couldn't get anywhere.
One of the most beautiful things I think about Elvis too is he knew that he was where he was because of his fans. A lot of these big stars, they get so big and so caught up in their own heads, they don't remember where they came from. They don't remember, he used to say, "I'm up on this hill because of my fans. That's the reason I'm on this hill." And he never forgot that. you know, I think that's where a lot of his generosity came from,
Mhm.
was because he came up in a, not a very wealthy, of course, we know he wasn't wealthy, from a wealthy family, and he always remembered his roots. He remembered that people needed money. Of course, there's so many stories about how many cars he bought for people, and, I heard one the other day about, he saw this man broke down on the side of the road in Memphis, with his old pickup truck broke down, he had a load of wood that he was gonna deliver. And Elvis stopped and took him down to a dealership and bought him a new truck. And they came back, and Billy Smith was with him,
Mhm.
and, which is cousin, of course, and so Billy, and he told Billy, he said, help that man unload all his wood from the old truck into the new truck. You know, and he stayed with him at the dealership till they got the truck ready to go, followed him back to where his old truck and his wife were. I think
Mhm.
Billy stayed with his wife there on the side of the road, and the man went with Elvis to get the truck. And, you know, and just, there are countless stories like that of things that he did for people. He was just, you know, so generous, so giving, so loving. And I think that all stemmed from
Sure.
his roots, but he never forgot his fans. You know, he loved us. My mother used to say, we loved him to death. And we probably did. We just smothered him, you know. I heard him say one time, he said, I'd just like to go to McDonald's
Mhm.
and get a hamburger. Something that we take for granted. And he couldn't go to
No.
McDonald's and get a hamburger because of people like me. You know, it was people like me that kept him from going to McDonald's. But, you know, we just loved him so much, we couldn't leave him alone. We just couldn't leave him alone. My daddy and I, and my mother, we pulled up beside him one time at a red light. He was out, cause we followed him. He left the house. It happened to be daytime that time. He left the house, and we jumped in the car and said, oh, Daddy, let's follow him, you know. And we pulled up beside him at the red light. And of course, I rolled down the window, hey Elvis, hey Elvis. And just stuff like that he had to, that we don't have to contend with every day. And he did, and he smiled at me and waved at me, and then the light turned green and we all took off. But, you know, and we watched him so many afternoons playing touch football. You know, I've seen him so many Sunday afternoons playing touch football over in the school that was kind
We
of
were,
behind
we were
Graceland.
talking about that, trying to figure out what school that was. It
Yeah.
was near, it was right behind, it was kind of behind Graceland,
Behind
not too far.
Graceland, of course not directly behind, there were houses in between, but it was behind Graceland. And I don't know if it was Graceland Elementary. Again, I wasn't concerned about the name of the school at the time, I just wanted to see him. But he'd be out there playing touch football with Red West and Sonny and, you know, all of his guys, and, of course, they never tackled him or anything, it was all touch, nobody.
Well, Elvis
hurt
was
anybody.
so fast, you couldn't get him anyway, so you know. He was like, they just like try to get him and they would just miss him, cause
Just
Elvis was.
missed it, yeah, they didn't hurt each other, they just had fun.
Yeah.
They had fun, but I've just got so many great memories of seeing him.
So, obviously, you remember, you know, Bester, do you remember Sterling Pepper at all?
Oh, yes, yes, in fact, I worked for, it's First Tennessee Bank now, but at the time, I worked for First National Bank in Memphis, and I worked at the Summer Avenue branch. It's probably long gone by now, I don't know. But anyway, that's where Mr. Sterling would come in and cash his paychecks.
Mhm.
And of course, the first time I cashed one of his checks for him, I'm seeing, you know, Elvis Presley,
Right.
you know, Enterprises or whatever it said at the top of the check, and of course, struck up a friendship with him. And of course, Gary, you know, his son was, you know, invalid in a wheelchair, and of course, Elvis bought him the motorized wheelchair, and there's all the stories about how good he was to Gary.
I brought Nancy Pease, Gary's nurse,
Mm-hmm.
On the show, and you know, she shared a lot of just wonderful things about how, you know, I mean, Elvis would come over there after Sterling died.
Yeah.
You know, the mother was not in very good condition, or just maybe she never was, and how like he would like try to clean the place up and pick up Gary off the ground because he was out of his chair, and you know, but yeah, he took care of Gary all the way until Gary passed away,
Mhm.
well, until Elvis passed away.
Right.
And then shortly after that, Gary passed
Yeah.
away because the checks stopped. Vernon stopped cutting the checks because he was told to stop paying, unless you were a necessary employee of Graceland, to stop paying it. And so, Jeannie Jorgensen, who I've got to send, I've got a box of stuff from her, I've got to send back to her. She sent me a bunch of negatives of Gary and Elvis at Elvis's wedding reception at Graceland in the Jungle Room. Gary used to have a newsletter that he would type up all the time because he was an Elvis Presley fan club president. So it's very cool. I mean, it's cool that you actually knew Sterling.
Mr. Sterling was a prince of a guy also. He was so nice, and of course, after he and I kind of made that connection the first time I cashed his check, he always stand in my line. You know, that's when you had lines at tellers' windows, and Summer Avenue was a busy branch, and he would always wait, even though he had to wait a while to get to me. He was never in too big a hurry because we'd always, you know, want to talk about Elvis some, and he was the nicest guy. He really was.
Okay. I'm gonna read off a few of the comments here, and then we're gonna wrap it up, and maybe we'll do another one sometime. I mean, there's
Sounds
probably
good.
more stories, but regardless,
Sounds good.
people have really enjoyed it. Vincenzo says, hi, Rhonda. Thanks so much for all the stories. Let me see here. Barbara Hogan. Elvis Presley really did a lot of signing when he was on his horse sometimes at the great gates of Graceland. I've been to Graceland once. It's a beautiful place. Elvis and Friends. So, the one who says I was raised on him, not the one who says she was friends with the group and hopes they see her. I think responding to somebody back in the comments there. I remember you now, says Vincenzo. Kaye, you're the one that says I was raised on Elvis.
Yes.
Voice is the same.
The voice is the same. I look a little different. That's been 48 years ago, so I was 30 when he passed away.
So, you know, a lot of people have tuned into this, and of course, once we put it on the channel, there'll be more, and there'll be more comments. So, you just have to subscribe to Joe Sims Forever's Photos. Even though we know each other, it's not, I don't really pitch my stuff when I'm singing country music. I don't really say, go follow me on YouTube. I probably should, but yeah, I mean, it's wonderful having you, and I mean, heck, we might have to bring a Beatles fan on here. You know, Fane's got a bluegrass group that plays great, and he loves Elvis now, or
He does.
respects him.
I've seen him probably 8 or 10 times myself. So.
Yeah.
So we might have to talk about your perspective about how, you know, your wife went off looking for Elvis all the time, trying to dress up as a maid.
He's cost me a lot of money through the years.
He's still costing me money because I love the really good ETAs, the real good tribute artists.
Who's your favorites?
Dean Z.
Okay, Dean is great.
Dean Z is probably my favorite. I like Cody Dionoff. I like Bill Cherry. Let's see, who else do I like? There's a lot of them that I David Lee is really good. And these guys love Elvis. They're not just, I've talked to them in length, and they're not just doing this for the money. They have studied Elvis. Some of them have been watching him, and I don't like to call them impersonators. They're better than impersonators.
Yeah.
But they've been doing Elvis, I'd say, since they were 3 years old. Dean Z said he used to get up on the coffee table when he was 3 and try to be like Elvis. So these guys, they're the first to tell you that we don't think we're Elvis. We do not think we are Elvis or as good as Elvis, but we're keeping his memory alive. We love performing and seeing the women that didn't get to see Elvis, that weren't as fortunate as I. And it's as close as they're gonna get to Elvis, you know.
Yeah, because Elvis is not performing anymore, and somebody was not blessed to see Elvis like you so many different times.
And I thank them for doing what they do. They're wonderful. They're just.
Yeah, because it's as much compliments as they get and thanks as they get a lot of insults too.
They do.
Because a lot of people don't understand. I mean, when I'll load a tribute song on one of my other channels sometimes, I get a lot of compliments, but there's some people that are nasty and mean, and I'm like, you know what? It's your opinion, you know, and I don't have a problem with you defending your memory of Elvis. But it's gotta be tough to have the hecklers that come to some of those tribute and there's probably few,
You
know, but when it happens, I mean, gosh, I mean, it's hard to quiet down a heckler. You know, you gotta kick them out, grab them by their neck, throw them out.
Yeah.
What do you think of Johnny Hara, the one who played Elvis, and this is Elvis, says Rhonda, says Vincent.
I think he did a good job. I think he did a good job. Of course, you know, nobody's gonna be Elvis. Nobody's gonna look exactly like Elvis. Nobody's gonna walk exactly like Elvis, which is a hard thing to get down. The walk usually is what makes the ETAs not look as much like him. They can't get the strut. They can't quite get that down. But I thought Johnny did a good job. I thought Johnny did a really good job.
A question for me. So I had Ronnie McDowell on the show, and you know, it's funny. I still haven't put it on the channel, but he said, you know, my favorite Elvis channel is Joe Sims Rivers Photos. Yeah.
Right.
So he did me a little teaser thing I haven't put on. But I mean, he was a big Elvis fan. He didn't, you know, he really became a bigger fan after Elvis passing and wrote that song. But I mean, are you a fan of Ronnie McDowell? I mean,
I am. I like Ronnie.
Because he's, you know, goes over to Memphis all the time.
Yeah.
And he, Mike Curb, the head of Curb Records, bought Elvis's house on Audubon Way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I should have probably gone over because he invited me to be a guest, but he does shows over there at the Audubon Way house to try to keep that house because it's such a piece of history before he got to Graceland.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's where we used to drive by first.
We'll have to talk about that maybe next time.
We used to drive by it a lot, you know. Of course, Elvis had to move. I mean, the traffic was crazy on that street. The neighbors were having a fit because, you know, too much traffic, too much blocking things up. So he didn't keep that place very long, you know. But it's a beautiful house. In fact, we were in Memphis Saturday and drove by, and it's still nice area, nice place.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanh you for having me.
Everybody's so enjoyed it. They
Well,
really have. They said best live ever is what they said.
Well, thank you so much. I've enjoyed being here. I never get tired of talking about Elvis. I never get tired of telling people, you know, sometimes you hear some bad stories. They're not true. He was a prince of a guy. He was gracious, kind, sweet, loving person. So I never get tired. Very spiritual man, God-loving man, which is evidence in all of his gospel songs. I love all of his gospel music, and
we'll have you back on. We'll talk about your favorite songs next time, favorite movies, and some other memories that pop up. We'll do a part 2. I think they're gonna want it. So.
Sounds good. I'll be glad to, and thank you so much for having me, Joe. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Kaye. I'll go and shut this off, and they're gonna hear us talking for a second. But... Hey, there's a record player, everybody. Got all those Elvis songs down there. See them? And all those Elvis records.